Okay, its recording is progress. Thank you very much once again, Miss Wells, and have a great time in Croatia for the first time. I suppose that's your first time in Croatia?
Yes, it's my first time, so it's really kind of exciting to see a new place.
Mm-hmm. So how come? For the first time, I mean, how come the invitation come? And
We actually, me and my husband, we just spent the past 8 days or so in the Netherlands because the parents of our goddaughters were having a 40th anniversary party, and we and everyone was staying for an extra week to just tour the Netherlands. So we had already planned to do that, I think, as much as 2 years ago. So it was just really serendipitous that the convention was the weekend after that. So we'd already be so close, and it would be really easy to come here basically on the way home. So that's why we're here.
do you travel a lot to conventions of that type, and you kind of all over the world? And does it ever get boring?
It pretty well now. I'm glad that I didn't get popular enough to get invited to these places until I was older and a lot more experienced. And and I'm on anxiety medication now, so that helps a lot. It's really, I don't think I ever get bored. I get tired sometimes, and it's just not so much the traveling. And I certainly love seeing new places and getting to go to parks and museums and all that kind of thing. But the conventions, when you're on for a long time and talking to people for a long time, that can get kind of mentally tiring, even if you're enjoying it. And I really tell authors, if they don't enjoy conventions and interacting with the fans and answering questions and things like that, then they really shouldn't do it. But I do kind of enjoy it, and I enjoy meeting new people and getting out there and seeing everything. And it's just it is tiring, physically tiring, but it is worth it.
What's your, I like the word, but impressions of Croatia so far, of the people or of the general, like, country itself?
We've only been in Zagreb about a day.
Oh,
So
okay, you hadn't have time,
we
opportunity.
haven't seen much. We will tomorrow when we're going over to
Rijeka.
another city to do a book event and everything. But the food is delicious. That's the thing that's first, that has really, I've really noticed first, and everyone's been very nice. We went to a great restaurant last night, and it was just absolutely delicious food.
Okay, tell me, please, when initially, what initially drew you to start writing speculative fiction? And did you ever had some kind of dreams, like young Mrs. Wells and nowadays Mrs. Wells? Did you ever wondered that your passion could travel so far?
I, you kind of hope it will, but I didn't really have any realistic expectations that it would. I wanted to be a writer from very early on, and I'm not quite sure why. It's just that my sister is 9 years older than me, and so I was kind of a lonely kid. I didn't have a lot of kids around to play with and everything. So I was really into books and really into TV and really into stories and wanted to tell stories very early on. And that kind of gradually evolved into wanting to be a writer. And then science fiction and fantasy was always kind of my favorite, genre. I knew about what being a working professional writer was like because when I went to college, I went to Texas A&M, and there was a science fiction and fantasy convention there run by the students. So I got to talk to a lot of working writers and learned how, particularly in the United States, it's so many of the people that are even running writers or running fantasy magazines and all the stuff are really doing it part-time because they need to have a job to support themselves because the money coming in is just not enough anymore to support a family or anything. So I knew that it was not an easy job and that it's not a quick rich get rich quick scheme, which it gets kind of touted as sometimes, and it's like, it's absolutely not that. And that getting to be a bestseller, getting popular would be sort of like winning the lottery. It would be a very rare chance. So you kind of hope that your book will be popular, books will be popular. But after I'd been publishing for about 25 or 26 years before Murderbot hit it big. So really at that point in your career, you're not expecting anything like that to happen. And I was just happy with the fact that I was still able to get my books published and get out there.
And now looking back over your shoulder, could you spot the perfect or exact spot at your career that was the breakthrough moment? That you knew, okay, from that moment on, everything changes.
Yeah, I had early indications that Murderbot was doing well. The publisher, it was published as a novella and part of Tor.com's novella line. And they usually, for the print editions, they usually only print like 500 or so copies because most of their sales are in ebook. And because I already had, a lot of their authors were first-time authors. And because I had, had been publishing for so long, they did basically double the number of copies, which was like 1,000 copies. And they arranged for me to go to a bookstore in Houston and basically do a pre-order signing, is where people order the books in advance and you sign them and then the store ships them out. You just drop by. It's not an actual event. And when I went by, the bookseller explained that they'd almost not been able to fulfill the orders because the warehouse was empty, and he had to actually call the publicist at Tor.com, and she had to go around to the offices in the building and take everyone's copy away from them that had been handed out so they could make the order. And it's like, well, that's good, but it was still a small number. And then it wasn't really until I think my editor and my agent had been telling me it was doing well, but it sort of hadn't really dawned on me until the moment I got the first royalty check, where and I could see how many copies had been sold. I actually dropped the check because it startled me so much. I think that was starting to dawn on me. This book really is taking off. It's not, just taking off for a novella in this novella line. It's taking off for a book of, in science fiction fantasy at all. So, that was probably the moment. And then when I got nominated for the Nebula Award and then the Hugo Award, and at the convention, that the Worldcon that year, which was in San Jose, California in the US, my editor told me how many copies had been sold so far, and it was just, blew me away. So, I think it was more like a series of moments.
J.K. Rowling, here comes Miss Marthom Wells.
That would be cool. I don't think it's quite up there yet, but it's doing really well. So.
No, because nowadays I have seen the teaser. There is, I think, major platform Apple TV Plus. They are adopting Murderbot for the TV. And
yes, actually, it's finished and it's going to be out, released by Apple next Friday. Not this coming Friday, but next Friday, May 16th.
The whole season?
No, just the first 2 episodes, and then it'll be 1 episode per week after that, and it's 10 episodes total.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose you have seen it.
Yes, I've actually seen it in kind of almost like a draft version where it was all kind of cut together in order, but the special effects were just placeholders, and the music was like a draft version of the music, and the sound and color correction wasn't there, and some of the voiceover, they were rewriting the voiceover kind of as they went along. And then I've seen the full version, the post-production version, where it's ready to go, and I love it. It's just made me so happy.
Could you tell us about the experience when writers see his characters at another pop cultural form and I suppose you haven't envisioned all of them exactly like they were presented, but is there a place for ego, or is there a place for another vision of the filmmakers?
Yeah, I definitely think there is because, visual media, film and TV are so different from prose writing. And it's kind of just like the way that graphic novels, comic books, that is its own medium that is written in a different way and kind of conceived in a different way. So yeah, I think there's plenty of room for that. And actually, I was talking with Chris and Paul Weitz, who are the producers, directors, and writers of the scripts, that I see it as more like just a really great fan fiction with, all the bells and whistles and all the resources to make it really cool. So it doesn't change what's in the books, but it's always been really interesting to me, the way people would interpret it differently. Readers would interpret the story differently. So it's just really cool to see this interpretation where you can see the interpretation and experience it too.
But has the adaptation remained faithful to the tone of the original book? And because all the books of Murderbot series are full of really intense humor and inner voices, and did it have been changed for the TV series, and are you satisfied with it?
Yeah, they made it as faithful as they could, and I was involved a lot in any changes they had to make. We talked about it and kind of decided what it should be together. And the one thing they had to do was make it longer for 10 episodes to fit into 10 episodes. And so we talked about what they wanted to do, and actually they had such a good idea for that. I wish I'd thought of it for the book. It's been really cool to write that. But so yeah, I think it is very faithful, and it's funny to be watching it, because it's been a while since I've gone over the book. It's all from All Systems Read, and it's very kind of funny where I'm watching it and going, oh, that line's really familiar. Oh yeah, I wrote that line. That's right out of the book. So I think they did a great job, and especially they had to add scenes that Murderbot sort of refers to in passing that were things that happened that the other characters did. So they've had to add those scenes, and I think they were able to really expand on the characterization of Dr. Mensah and Grathan and Rati and Pinley and Arata in those scenes where you see things that Murderbot sort of, glancingly referred to in the book. And that's kind of one of the really fun parts for me, is to actually see that. And it feels very odd and sort of very surreal when you stand there and get a picture, a photograph of yourself with people playing your characters in costume, standing in one of the places you kind of made up, and it's just a really unique experience.
Mm-hmm. Do you think they could reshape the audience perceptions of those who did read the Murderbots, or maybe those who haven't read the books? And how will this TV series cope with them, with that type of viewers?
I don't know. I have different impressions when I've read a book and then seen it adapted. So I think it's a thing nowadays that audiences are a lot more used to. So I don't think it'll affect, the books. There are some people who will be upset because it's not exactly.
Of course, but they are always, yeah.
But always, yeah, you always see that. I don't think it will affect. I think a lot of people will probably buy the books because they'll want to see the rest of the story.
Okay.
What happens next.
Okay.
So I don't think it will change people's perceptions too much. Mm-hmm. But everybody's an individual in the way they interpret creative writing, whether it's TV or.
Of course.
Yeah.
Because all of the book series have been so successful, does producers already think so far that there will be season 2, or do you have to wait the success of the TV series also?
I think we're still waiting. I think we have to wait until Apple gives a final word. It's the production company that depth of field that
until
actually.
until their servers crashes down when the first
Yeah,
episode.
if Apple crashes, if Apple TV crashes during the
Then
first,
you go to the Netflix with
then
season two.
yeah, I think that yeah, I think that they might ask for a second season, but I'm still, we still don't know yet.
Tell me, please, uh, about the state of the AI nowadays, because it's the major subject of your interest in Murderbot series.
Yeah.
What, where does it go from the 2025 up to 2050? Do you have any author's vision? Where could it? Because when we watched Blade Runner 82, we thought it's that type of fiction that could maybe never happen.
Yeah.
Nowadays, AI is much more than, I don't know, that it's presented like in Spike Jonze's Her. I adore that movie with Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson. Did you watch it? Did you see it?
No, I didn't see that one. I've seen some others, but
Okay. What do you think? What's your perception of the growth of the AI future dates?
I don't think I think the thing that's really popular in the news are the large language models like Chat GPT, and that's not actually doing nearly as well as it's presented because it's not a thinking, sentient version of artificial intelligence. It's pattern matching. And when you pattern match words, it's just like words that fit into these patterns. They don't often make sense. And it's not like it's a search engine that's capable of making,
Yeah.
of going out like Siri does. You say, Siri, I need to know this, and Siri will go to the Wikipedia or the dictionary or whatever and pull it for you and show it to you. And it doesn't do that. It just takes words from various places and jams them together. And if you're lucky, they make some sort of sense, but a lot of time they don't. So that's not really artificial intelligence. The big use, the use of real algorithmic AI that we get into is like parsing astronomical data, where you have all this data and then it can go through that. That's more the actual use that's being made of it, the real use that's being made of it, and doing other things that just require a lot of data and to kind of that it can do, and then present to humans for the results. But the LLMs we have are not like that. I think we're still a long way from actual sentient AI, and it's going to be, it's the idea of a thinking, actually sentient machine is still very far away. They don't really have anything that's coming close to that. They have a lot of things that can pretend to be that. And I think that that's what's confusing people, and the people who are trying to make money off it are deliberately playing on that confusion. Like, I worked in information technology and constructing databases when I was first out of college, for quite a while. And even back then on the social media, even though the social media was a lot smaller and basically more primitive than what we have now, we were still getting problems with bots showing up. And the bots looking for people to say like keywords like mortgage or something like that, and then it would come and give you a spam a spam email or a spam comment pretending to be from a person. And it's like what we're seeing online, like the disinformation bots and stuff, are just more elaborate versions of that, where they can actually pretend to argue with you. And though if you go long enough, you can see it's starting to say things that don't make sense because it does. You've said something it doesn't have in its list of comments or whatever. You see these on. I'm on Blue Sky, the social media site Blue Sky, and you can see the waves of polite disagreement bots, where you will say something and it will come and and very politely act like a, well, this is somewhat true, but then you're not thinking about this. And sometimes when the person's talking about what kind of coffee they had that morning, and it's like, why is someone arguing with me about this? And you see that quite a bit, and people are starting to really learn how to recognize them pretty quickly and block them. But when someone says something really odd to you, often it's actually a bot. And
But
so
it's still imitating. It's still imitating a human experience.
it's imitating a human, but it's just imitating. It's not actually thinking of what to say. It's going through its programming of what phrases to stick together to reply to you.
Mm-hmm. But AI is just one of the different genres that you have mentioned and cope with in your all literature career. And for the end, I would just only ask you if there is any plans that you can share, and what is bright future for Mrs. Marthom Wells regarding writing and regarding possibly having another books and series, not only Murderbots for the television adapted for television.
I don't have anything that's been optioned for TV except Murderbot right now. I had my most recent fantasy novel was Witch King, which I don't think it came out in Croatia.
I think so.
Yeah, hopefully
not
maybe
not yet.
somebody will do it, but I just finished the sequel to Witch King not very long, like a couple of months ago, and it's coming out in the US in October. I also have in May, Tor.com bought the rights to a lot of my older works that had gone out of print, and they're releasing 2 young adult books that I went ahead and revised, and they're releasing them as a compilation in May. I've forgotten when, but it's because I've been out of the country for 2 weeks, so there's sometime around May, and I've got a couple of things I've been working on that the publisher hasn't announced yet, so I can't say. They'll be announced soon, I think. And so what I'm going to start working on next is a 3rd book in the Witch King series, and I'll start working on that when I get home. And hopefully I'll finish it this year. Knock on wood.
I just wanted to ask you, how long the process does it take you to write like that book that you're on?
A novel like the size of Witch King, about a year, if I'm lucky. So if I'm not lucky, it will take longer. For something like Murderbot, for a novella, it can take usually. I finished All Systems Red in 1 month, but that was kind of unusual. The rest take at least 3 to 4 months because I end up writing a lot and then going back and rewriting and kind of finding the story that way. But so yeah, and a lot of times the 3 to 4 months, 2 of those months are just getting started. But once I get started, it goes relatively quickly.
You never use help of AI, the kind of.
I don't even like it when the phone, you're typing on your phone a text and it keeps sticking words in there you don't want. I don't even like that. It's just, it tries to lead you off in its own directions, and it's so useless.
Miss Wells, thank you very much for your time and your patience, especially for my Balkanian English. Have a wonderful time in Croatia.
Oh, thank you. And I didn't have any trouble understanding you. I think you're fine. So, don't worry about that. But yeah, I hope I have a wonderful time too, and I'm sure I will.
Yeah.
Thank
you very much once again. Maybe we'll see you in Rijeka.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.